Halliburton throws it up. That won't go, and that'll do it. OKC with a thunderbolt here in the fourth. Once again, showing their resilience. And these NBA Finals are tied at 2 games apiece. They're now 6-0 in the playoffs after a loss.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the All Things Basketball Podcast. Happy Father's Day weekend to anyone with a father or a father figure. Hope it ends up being a good weekend for everybody. Let's talk about this mind-boggling Game 4. I rewatched the entire fourth quarter this morning just to kind of get just a refresher of what the hell happened. You see the fans go from we're about to win this championship, even though obviously they'd have to win one more game, to just absolute silence. The crowd is absolutely stunned, in shock, just complete. The life gets sucked out of this entire arena. And in Thunder fashion, the defense went up to another level, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. This should be a relatively quick pod because, like I mentioned earlier, it is Father's Day weekend, and I do have some plans. I'm not a father, so, I have a dog. Let's jump right into just the team data to start, and then I'm just going to get into, the final moments of this fourth quarter, give some shout-outs, and just give some general thoughts of this game. So, team data here, man. I mean, points in the paint. The Thunder, they dominate again. They got 50 points in the paint to the Pacers 36. It really felt like the Pacers really just struggling all over the place, even though they started this game, really lighting up the Thunder in a way that really made me worried watching it. Second chance points, that was the big change in this series right now. It's 23 points to the Pacers 13, so the Thunder definitely took advantage of those second chances. Fast break points, Indy was really held in that regard. They had 9 fast break points to the Thunder's 10. In terms of turnovers, it was a close battle between the two teams. 13 turnovers for the Thunder to Indiana's 15. We're going to points off turnovers. It was 25 points for the Thunder to the Pacers 23. So both teams really capitalizing off of each other's turnovers. This was a great game. I would argue this was, I said the last game was the best game of the series. This one is now the next best game of the series, right? Just the way that everything played out, it really looked like it was in the making for a Pacers win, and looking at the Thunder down 3-1. And of course, we'll get into that after this team data stuff. I hate when I just jump in and, start skipping steps. But 3-point percentage, I talked about before this series, and I've mentioned it many times throughout these games. Indiana, 30.6%. They didn't exactly light it up. They started off pretty hot, and then it just cooled down over the course of the game. 11 for 36 from 3. And just to get to that 3-point section, right, kind of like topic, I guess, I always talked about how the Thunder are the only team that I really feel good about when it's a game where a team isn't shooting it well, right? Like, they've won so many games this year and so many games in the playoffs alone, not shooting the ball well from 3. And like I said, it's their defensive intensity. It's obviously their ability to create in the half court, thanks to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, thanks to, maybe some putbacks from Chet Holmgren here and there. Obviously some shot making when the ball finds one of those roll guys. On those kickouts occasionally, even though they're not shooting it well, once in a while someone will come up big, right? Like a Lou Dort, for example. You can look at him, or an Alex Caruso, but also Jalen Williams as someone that can go and get a bucket on his own. Not to the level of Shai, but he is the next best guy that can do it on this team, and he can do it at a high level. And obviously, like I mentioned, their defense just being able to sustain really bad offensive possessions and just long, cold stretches from outside the three-point line. Free throw percentage. This was a free throw palooza, particularly in the fourth quarter. There was a lot of free throws, though. This was the strange game where it was a lot of free throws, but it was still very entertaining. And that is some rare stuff to say, because I typically complain when it's a lot of free throws in a game. The Thunder did not mess around at the free throw line. I don't know if they heard, maybe they're watching this pod and they're like, maybe they're one of my 1,400 whatever subs and they've been watching this pod and they're like, you know what, Vic? We got you, dude. We've been, very sketchy at the free throw line, and I'm talking about Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, and they did not miss a free throw this game. I mean, these guys combined for, 17 of 17. They did not miss a free throw. You throw Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in there, he was 10 for 10, and all of a sudden, it's 27 free throws made out of 27. It's really hard to lose a game when you're making every single free throw from those three main guys. 89.5% from the free throw line. They took 5 more free throws than the Pacers. The Pacers did not shoot well from the free throw line, particularly at the end. You can talk to Ben Matherin about that. He is definitely slapping himself in the head right now after that game. I mean, he's going to look back at that and, this offseason, or, the season's not over, obviously, but, he's definitely going to be just in that gym as the hard worker that we know he is, and he is probably just shooting a tremendous amount of free throws after that game. And obviously these games in between, it's typically what people do when they're not a bad free throw shooter, and then when the pressure's on and you miss key ones, like when Chet missed those against, I think it was the Denver Nuggets, that was rough. And that sticks with players for a long time. You can think about Nick Anderson, from the Orlando Magic, for any older fans of the NBA. Always bad moments to see a guy miss free throws when you really need them to go down. And especially when the crowd quiets down, because it's just, the pressure is just immense because you have just lost control of this game, right? And it's in the hands of a player at the free throw line. That's always nerve-wracking. A lot of guys don't make free throws in those scenarios. So when guys make it, you just appreciate it tenfold. Rebounding, the Thunder, obviously 43-33. Thunder won that battle. And the real differentiator here was the offensive rebounds. And I'll get into that later. But Indiana's fourth quarter, they were locked down. 17 points in the fourth quarter. They combined for 5 of 18 from the field. And looking back at this box score, I'm surprised they didn't make a single three. They were 0 for 8 from 3 in the fourth quarter. I actually didn't know that. Obviously, it didn't feel like they made many, if any, and clearly, obviously, that was the case. 0 for 8. I was like, wow. So I want to get to the topic that I've been complaining about this entire series. A lot of media people have been complaining about this entire series. Thunder fans have been asking about it. You can go on Reddit. You can, obviously, if you know any Thunder fans and you talk to them, this is something they've also been wondering, and rightfully so. I mean, the double big lineup, right? This was something it's been circling around, and Mark Daigneault, obviously, he hears it, and, that was a big point of criticism in that game 1 start and just his approach to this series. And like I said, like everyone said, you don't really want to be the team that adjusts first. You want to be the one that hits first and plays in your comfort zone first. Then you make adjustments as the series plays on or as a game plays on, right? It doesn't mean just because you start with double bigs that you have to finish that way or you have to play the entire game that way. But certainly there is something to be said about playing in your comfort zone and kind of letting the dominoes fall the way they normally do all year long. There's a comfort level. It's a psychological benefit to the others that don't necessarily have to play in situations that they're not used to, even though, to Mark Daigneault's credit, he has messed with lineups all season long. And the team has been very successful, and it's why whenever you see a Kenrich Williams out there, you see a Cason Wallace out there, you see a Caruso out there, or you even see like an Aaron Wiggins out there for like 5, 6, 7 minutes, you get some impressive production. In other scenarios for other teams where guys don't get a lot of opportunity and all of a sudden they get thrown out into the fire, they fold. And a lot of that is because they're not used to being put out there in normal circumstances. And that's something that I really like about this coach. Mark Daigneault obviously just has done incredible things, and he is not afraid to think outside of the box and make changes. And look, I thought that this was going to be his biggest regret if the Thunder could still lose this series. I don't think they're going to lose this series. I never did. I always had them in 6. I still think it's going to be in 6, though the way the Pacers have played in this series, it really makes you think it's destined for a Game 7. But without getting too sidetracked with that, I do want to say, Mark Daigneault, right? So he starts off with the small ball lineup in game 1, right? People are asking about it. People are complaining about it. They lose, right? That's going to be one of the biggest topics. Why did he go away from what gave you 68 wins? Or, obviously like 60 wins or whatever, because there were some times where they didn't have double bigs in the regular season, right? Because of injuries and things like that. Game 2 comes around. Mark Daigneault doubles down, right? You don't really see it. Game 3 comes along. And we see it in a burst, right? But he's still going small, right? And then game 4 comes. And he starts both of them. And I think that there's a little bit of an I told you so when you look at the first quarter. And I'm talking about I told you so in Mark Daigneault's favor. Because you're looking at that first quarter, the way it's unfolding, when you've got Chet and Hartenstein out there. And I love the lineup. Like I said, I'm all for it. On the offensive end, even on defense, there are a lot of benefits to having those two guys, but you could see the early issues with the double big lineup. And I'll be the first person to tell you that as soon as I was watching the Pacers knock down like 3 threes, because one of them was a tough Halliburton, like really deep one. But the first 2 threes, if I remember that correctly, they were off of like obviously some rotation issues and some big gaps because obviously, you got to cover more ground because Hartenstein and Chet are out there together. So, I was thinking, okay, this could be an issue and Mark Daigneault might have to go back to small ball. And that's exactly what he did. He didn't wait too long and then he kind of got back to what was working. He did mix them in a little more. I do have the numbers here, right? The advanced numbers and some of the tracking data. So in this game, Chet and Hartenstein played 9 minutes, according to the tracking data, and they were a -2 for the game. Now, so they played 2 minutes in the fourth quarter together, and in those 2 minutes, they combined for 6 points, 3 rebounds, 2 of them offensive rebounds, by the way, and they were a +2 in those 2 minutes. You can say what you want about the tracking data. It is what it is, whatever. Now, here is where Mark Daigneault is going to take a long look at this advanced stat, right? Like, you get the offensive rating from these two guys together in the lineup, and it's a 121.1, right? I mean, you could say whatever you want. Obviously, they're in the starting lineup. It's their best lineup all season long. They're with the starters, and obviously they're going to be a plus for the most part. Now, when you look at the defensive rating, 138.9 with those two guys together in this game. Yikes. Daigneault might know what he's doing, guys. I think he knows what he's doing. Okay, when he does the small ball stuff. And I stand corrected. Not saying that it still wasn't good, because, by the way, there are moments in this game where Hartenstein kind of like deflects a rebound. Chet adds an extra deflection. Like he also hits the ball. He manages to get a hand on it, and then the Thunder get another chance. There are moments where Hartenstein grabs offensive rebounds, and it's why the lineup should be at least put out there, right, in bursts. In terms of having to play that for the most part, Mark Daigneault is definitely smart for saying, you know what, we're not going to do that for the majority of this series. I mean, and the defensive rating number alone will tell you everything you need to know. I mean, when the Pacers get out and run and they space the floor and, all that good stuff on offense, and if they're hitting shots, it makes this lineup look really bad. But when you're running the small ball stuff and the Pacers are hitting threes anyways, that makes you think otherwise, right? Because now you're thinking, okay, well, what are we doing? Because now we're losing rebounding battles and they're hitting threes anyways. So, it's that constant dance that a coach does in a series and that a coach does all season long. And it's why I try not to criticize coaches as much as a lot of casual fans try to criticize them. Like, oh, they did this wrong. They did this wrong. And the coaches aren't perfect. They make a lot of mistakes. There's certainly a lot of stupid decisions that we see from time to time. But I feel like 99.9% of the time, it is a well-informed. You know what? I'm going to say 100% of the time, it's a well-informed decision because they're using data, they're using their assistants, they're using player opinions, their own experience as an opinion, and it all gets formulated into a game plan. So, to assume that these coaches aren't, thinking about all these solutions that we come up with in, 10 minutes, they've already thought of them, and they're in the back burner or they're in their back pocket. So, it just puts it into perspective for a lot of fans. Look, guys, we have evolved as fans. We've learned a lot from basketball, from watching all these years, and we have all this YouTube content, all these great content creators, and all the good stuff that we can see and learn. And the fan is more informed than ever before with Reddit and all these podcasts and things like that. But at the end of the day, we're not in those circles, we're not in the locker rooms, we're not with the players in practice, we're not in the coaches meetings. So it is hard to look at it from such a far away perspective and assume that we know more than these coaches. So kind of a rant. I want to talk about the last 3:52 mark of this fourth quarter, because this was a moment in the game. I never lost faith in this team. I was always like, this team can do it. It's very winnable. They've made 2 threes for the entirety of the game, and they're only down 4. It's 97-101. Right before that, there was a Shea turnover that led to free throws for Nesmith, which made it 101-97. So now this is when it starts to feel like Indy is running away with this game. But Shea draws a shooting foul on Nesmith. He makes his free throws. It's 101-99. Halliburton, just an unstoppable driving force. This guy is getting to the paint and laying it up whenever he wanted. It was, for the Thunder, that had to be frustrating. When Hallie is aggressive like that, putting the ball down and just challenging, even if it may end in a block or a deflection or a turnover, when he gets into that paint, it is problematic. He has good size. He has incredible finishing touch around the rim. He can make floaters. Obviously, he's a great free throw shooter. So, you also don't want to foul him on the way to the rim. So, he is problematic. So, he makes that layup. It's 103-99. Shea hits the biggest 3 of his career in this game. It is the third and final 3 for this entire game for the Thunder. And it's 103-102 Indy after that. Chet, he gets a great contest. I thought he blocked the shot. I went back and they didn't give it to him, so it was not a block. Nembhard misses the layup. That was huge by Chet. Shea gets a pull-up baseline 2. He kind of lost his footing. It almost looked like a travel, but then when they showed the slow-mo, like the replay cam, you could tell he had that gather step in the beginning, and then he collected himself and then got to that pull-up. And by the way, he gets Nesmith off of him, and Andrew Nembhard's right there. It just speaks to the shot-making ability of this guy. There's a huge Lou Dort steal that leads to Lou Dort free throws. He splits them, but it's 105-103 Thunder. Chet Holmgren, man, he hurts his ankle in this game. He kind of turns it. Then he bangs his knee, or maybe it was his shin. I just watch him defending Halliburton throughout these stretches in the game. And this dude, you could talk about him kind of losing his footing and kind of getting beat on some moves and then recovering late for late contests. And, some of those shots Halliburton will make no problem. But shout out to Chet Holmgren for just, pulling up his pants. This is a finals. It's game 4. We're on the ropes. We're on the ropes probably for good if we lose this game. We're probably not going to win this series. And he's all in, right? Just completely puts together the mentality to stay out there in the game, play through whatever pain it may be, just make impactful plays over and over and over again. Hallie misses the shot. Neither team is making shots pretty much at this point. They're missing a lot. And then Shea has a moment on Nesmith at the free throw line. Incredible footwork. It's just beautiful moves. This guy can play off 2 feet with the best of them. He gets fouled. He makes both free throws. It's 107-103. Chet, another defensive stretch on Halliburton where he's guarding him at the 3-point line. He stops him on a drive. He picks him back up, and Hallie kicks it out. He finds Miles Turner. And honestly, Miles Turner, bad game for him, man. It hasn't even been a good series for him. But yeah, so maybe he gets the first shot, but he pump fakes Lou Dort out of the picture, and then kind of like a little sidestep, takes a dribble, and that shot he takes, Caruso, is just full help. Forget about Andrew Nembhard. It is what it is if he catches it. And Miles Turner takes the 3, and he nearly airballs it. And I'm like, wow, that's how it ends for them. But Ben Mathurin secures a rebound. He gets fouled, and he is now at the free throw line to try to keep the Pacers in the game. These are absolutely necessary free throws in a finals game. And this is Nick Anderson all over again, right? for the Orlando Magic, for any fans out there. 0 for 2 from the free throw line. Those were massive free throws, and you see it in the crowd. You see it in Matherin's face, just the disbelief, the frustration, the confusion, the disappointment, really, from everyone in the arena. People, but you can still see, these fans, they love their team so much. Indiana, man, wonderful basketball place. Just their belief never falls, right? Like, it never fails. They never lose faith in this team. But, you just feel it, right? The energy has just completely been taken away. Shea gets fouled on an inbound. He gets a free throw. Thunder get possession. And look, man, on this next inbound, Hallie gets a deflection, and it's more Ben Mathurin free throws. So Ben Mathurin, with a chance to redeem himself, has to make both free throws. He splits them. Just, definitely a frustrating moment for him and a learning one. He is so young in his career. I like when players go through some adversity. I don't like to see failure at the biggest stage, because it is tough to watch, because how hard these players work all season long, all career, from a youth to just the professional level. And, to watch them kind of fail after all that work they put in, it's rough to watch, honestly. And that was basically the game. The Thunder just, man, their backs against the wall. The Pacers are storming. And all of a sudden, it's the Thunder defense showing up big time. It's Caruso with a big deflection showing in help defense to get a steal and take it the other way. It's Lou Dort putting the clamps on Halliburton, even though Halliburton had some good moments in that fourth quarter. But Lou Dort throughout this series, throughout this game, has just been a godsend defensively. And so has Chet. So has Hartenstein in stretches when people are getting to the rim, or Hartenstein's got to get physical, or even sometimes when Hartenstein's been holding his own on the perimeter. Isaiah Joe, this has not been the Isaiah Joe series, even though in short stretches where he's had some playing time on defense, hasn't been, obviously, he's been pretty bad on defense in general, but, he's made shots throughout the course of this series, but hasn't really been an Isaiah Joe series. Aaron Wiggins gave us a game. I'm not remembering if he gave us another really good game. I think he's had a bit of a vanishing act throughout this finals, and it's something you expect. Like Cason Wallace, I don't want this to escape me. One of my favorite Thunder players, for sure, because I love watching when a young player all of a sudden plays like a vet. And Cason Wallace has had those moments in these playoffs. He's had those moments all season. He has been an incredible steal in the draft. And I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but I was just not in favor of the Cason Wallace starting over Alex Caruso. Like, if you're going to start a guard that does the same shit and it's the finals, why are you not starting a championship guard? A proven guard, a veteran guard in Alex Caruso, who has completely outplayed Cason Wallace, and as he should, right? Like, this guy has been in the league for a long time. He's had many big moments. LeBron's given him some praise recently on that Mind the Game podcast, and a lot of people just know what Alex Caruso's about. And this guy he can have a bad offensive night. He's going to change the game on defense. He's never going to have a bad defensive game. He may have a lot of fouls. That's just the nature of being a great defender and you're physical. But those nights where he's having a good offensive night, he is a problem, because his technique off the ball, his angles, his thought process, his IQ. Now, I will say this. Whenever Alex Caruso gets a steal and he is in transition with the ball in his hands, I don't have a whole lot of hair, right? Like, I like to cut it like pretty damn short. I almost bald it pretty much all the time, but it makes me pull my hair when I see Alex Caruso get a steal and go the other way, because he forces the issue sometimes in a way that makes you think, please just hold on. Please just hold on. Just look, man, you got the steal. I know the Thunder get fast break points off turnovers, and that's the calling card. And I know you trust yourself taking contact. Caruso's very good at putting the ball down, absorbing contact, and finishing. He's also a very good free throw shooter. One of their better ones, by the way. I think he's like in the 80s. But still, like, there are moments where there's two guys backpedaling on defense on him, and he will try to split the defenders in transition. He will try to bump them both. He'll try a Euro step. He'll try deceleration moves to kind of like try to catch them off guard while they're backpedaling. And a lot of times he'll throw it away, or he'll get blocked, or he'll miss a crazy shot. And look, man, you live and die with those things. When guys get steals, that's kind of how they get energized and how they get motivated to get to the next play. So, you take those. It is what it is. But I don't know if anyone else noticed that about Alex Caruso. He is one of those guys, right? Gets very excited when he gets a steal and he gets down there. He could see 3 guys down there. And honestly, a lot of the times he tries to just attack that. So chill out, Caruso, a little bit. Anyways, there was a moment where Lou Dort brought the ball up and he's bringing it up full speed, and I'm like, what is going on right now? He turns it over. He loses control of the ball. And I'm just like, dude, can you relax? You do so much good work. He is such a plus. Makes very few mistakes on both ends of the floor. Like, the only real mistakes you can say he makes are fouls. That's the nature of the beast. When you're a good point of attack defender, when you're one of the best defenders in the league and arguably the best perimeter defender in the league, like, it just is what it is. But yeah, that was a head scratcher. There was another one where Jalen Williams, he has been sped up a lot this series, and shout out to the Pacers for doing that defensively. Jalen Williams has really lost control throughout a lot of stretches in these games where you're thinking, okay, man, just one too many dribbles. You're going a little too fast. You're trying a behind the back move when you know that there was a defender around you in transition and you're attacking a defender in front of you, yet you're trying these behind the back dribbles in transition. They look crazy, and don't get me wrong. Jalen Williams has a crispy handle, but, and there are times where he'll be like in transition and there's a defender on him and there's also a defender in front of him and he just splits through them and finishes at the rim. His finesse, his ability to control his body in the air is incredible stuff, and his athleticism is through the roof too. Just awesome play after awesome play, but he does have those as well, where he'll throw them over, the ball hits his foot while he's dribbling, or he's a little too loose with it and the defender just kind of like, give me that. Like, they just take it right from in front of him, and it looks kind of crazy. But great Jalen Williams game, man. I mean, couldn't hit a 3, but he knew where he knew his bread and butter. Get to the rim, snake some pick and rolls, which he is awesome at. Like, I love watching Jalen Williams take a screen and snake it, put the on-ball defender in jail, create some separation because that obviously the help defender is also in front of him. And then he gets to like a little step back mid-range pull-up, which he hits pretty damn often. He does have to work on that a little bit. I don't think he's that efficient on it. I'd have to go look at the pull-ups. Obviously, mid-range pull-ups are pretty tough, but definitely part of his game. I love watching him snake pick and rolls. Love watching him just get to the rim as well, like I said. But watching these 2 guys, Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, make all their free throws was awesome stuff to watch because I have mentioned how sketchy they are at the free throw line, and that's not going to change. Like, that's not going to change. They're going to have to prove it to me these next few games as well because I still don't feel comfortable when I see them at the line. But shout out to them for getting the job done when they were absolutely needed most. I hope I haven't left anyone out. I'm going to go through this little box score now. So, gonna give some shout outs to Pacers players, and it's going to be a little difficult to do that. Halliburton, 1 for 7 from 3. Big yikes. I mean, super yikes. These guys were not shooting it well from here. Obi Toppin had a good game. I think he had a good game. Kind of forgot where he was throughout some stretches, but I think he gave you as good of a game as you can get from a role guy. 17 points. I mean, 7 of 12 from the field. He's 40% from 3. He missed a lot of free throws. He rebounded well, as he usually would do for you. In key moments, he will get a block and a steal here and there, which he did in this game. Ben Shepherd, I feel like Ben Shepherd has quietly had a good series for the little bit of time that he's played. I think, like, defensively, I feel like him coming out of the draft, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like him coming out of the draft, defense was not something that was in his profile. Like, I feel like that was something that was a knock. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's been pretty damn good defensively in the minutes he's been playing. Like, I've seen him, he's gotten beat a few times, but man, he has really stayed in contest range, right? Like, through a lot of those shots. So impressive stuff from him. Andrew Nembhard defensively, man, he hits some huge mid-range shots, hit threes in this game, is obviously the secondary, like, ball handler, or obviously you could also say that was Pascal Siakam as a secondary ball handler. Nembhard's had a big responsibility with that. But you could see the struggles from Miles Turner here, man. 0 for 6 from 3. not going to cut it, bro. 3 for 10 from the field. He made all his free throws, but man, the 5 fouls, he's getting absolutely cooked. You get the 6 of 15 from the field from Siakam, but, he had those 5 steals. He had the block, the 5 assists, the 8 rebounds. So, not a horrendous, not a bad statistical game, but you do feel like he vanished, right? Let me look at the fourth quarter box score, because I don't really remember much of an impact from him. Yeah, he took 1 shot in the fourth quarter, minus 14. Played almost 9 minutes in that fourth quarter. Miles Turner 0 for 2 in that fourth quarter. Aaron Nesmith did not make a shot in that fourth quarter. Nembhard only made 1 shot. I think that might have been the mid-range pull-up over Hardenstein. Could be wrong about that one. And then Obi Toppin makes 1 field goal. And yeah, look at this fourth quarter. Like I mentioned earlier, 0 for 8 from 3. Really tough stuff. Shout out to that Thunder defense. If we're going to do some call outs here, I'm going to call out the Indiana Pacers offense because their defense, I think, was great. I think they did enough on the defensive end to say, hey, man, our offense had to come through at least at an average level, and that was not the case. These guys shot 42% from the field. That is not going to cut it for them. They got a lot of free throws, so shout out to them for drawing fouls. Offense-wise, I'm going to give here's a little kind of side note. Heliocentric offense is the future of the NBA, right? We've seen it. All of the most efficient offenses have been with heliocentric things installed, right? And if you don't know about the term heliocentric, it's one person and then everyone else around him, right? Kind of complementing that one player, right? Everything revolves around the one guy. That is the Oklahoma City Thunder offense in a nutshell. And you could be misled by the production, the balanced production in a way, the distribution in the sense of some games it's Caruso going off, some games it's Dort, some games it's Wiggins and Cason Wallace and Jalen Williams and Chet, But make no mistake, when you look at the usage rates, it is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the ball is in his hands, and if help comes, he has the capabilities to shoot over that help. He also has the capabilities to make the right read, make the pass, whoever's cutting, whoever's wide open, and if the threes aren't falling from those kickouts, that's where the heliocentric offense kind of starts to look bad, but, he also is able to weather the storm on his own, and I'm talking about Shai with those 15 points in the fourth quarter, a guy that can completely take over a game on his own with the ball in his hands, and we've seen it from all-time greats who have been heliocentric players, right? Like Kobe Bryant's, the Michael Jordans. These are guys that, yes, they were in the triangle offense. Yes, they had to share the ball and all this good stuff. The ball was in their hands in basically every moment that was needed. Obviously, you want to look at the Ron Artest kick out, right? Where Kobe passes him the ball. He hits a big 3 over the Celtics in that Game 7. But make no mistake, heliocentric offense has its negatives. It has its positives, and balanced offense has its negatives as well. And how could that be? How could it be that team balanced offense would be a bad thing, right? Well, look at the end of this fourth quarter for the Pacers. It's a lot of hot potato. It's a lot of you take it. No, you take it. No, I'm cut off here. You got it, right? Best player on the team, you could say, is Halliburton. He's kicking it to Miles Turner, kicking it to Siakam. Andrew Nembhard has the ball. It's a lot of who has a good look, and let's just give it to them, versus the Thunder know exactly what it's going to look like in crunch time. We're going to give it to Shai, and we're going to play off that. And there's a lot to be said about familiarity, even if you're in a heliocentric offense. Let's keep it 100 here, guys. If those Rockets did not miss all those threes, they're probably winning a championship. And that was a heliocentric offense. It was James Harden, and it was everyone else around him knocking down threes. By the way, they did not defend the way this Thunder team defends. So heliocentric offense can be incredibly effective, especially when you have the type of defense that this Thunder team has. Because in the rare case where Shai can't get buckets, which, by the way, the Pacers did a very good job of limiting, even though he had a 35-point game. But when you look at it, a lot of his shots are tough. And there are stretches where he just can't even get on the ball. It shows that when you know the game plan going into it, and you're not wondering, who do I make the right play to? And it's more just we're going to make these reads off of Shai. The familiarity really gives you the comfort that you need to feel a little more at ease versus another team kind of trying to figure it out amongst each other. And yeah, I think the Thunder are going to win this next game at home. I think the crowd is going to be absolutely outrageous. They're going to be the loudest it's ever been. And these guys are going to be incredibly happy and comfortable that they are back home with the series tied. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I will catch you guys on the next one.